Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and today we're gonna do my Game Week 8 team selection video. So as you guys could tell from the thumbnail and also on the screen right now, my wildcard is active. Yes, I have chosen to activate the wildcard in Game Week 8 instead of Game Week 9. Now I'll go into a little bit of detail as to why I did that before we go into the draft. Right, so if you guys do enjoy this video, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you're new around here. So let me explain why I activated my wildcard before we go into the draft, and there were three main reasons. So the first reason was because I wasn't 100% satisfied with my team. Yes, I could have gotten to 11 playing players with 2 free transfers, but the problem was that I had a lot of fringe players that I wasn't satisfied with. Right, I didn't want to play Neco Williams. I had Gundogan, who started in the Champions League and he may not start over the weekend as well. Right, and there were a couple of other players that I didn't like in my team. Right, and I probably would just be managing this game week. Now, another main reason why I kind of activated the wildcard is also my team value. Now, it wasn't so high for me to kind of have the flexibility of activating it later on, because I did make a couple of drafts and I found out that I would be priced out of a couple of moves or a couple of players that I want to get if I didn't activate it now. And thirdly, one of the main reasons why people want to wildcard in Game Week 9 instead of 8 is also because they can take Liverpool players out now where they blank in Game Week 8, take a couple of punts on maybe players like Kane or De Bruyne, and then thereafter bring Liverpool players back in the Game Week 9 wildcard. Right, but I made a couple of drafts and I just compared my Game Week 9 and Game Week 8 wildcard. I just felt like I wouldn't bring in Trent and Salah right away. Right, I have a couple of plans to bring Trent and Salah back in based on this current Game Week 8 wildcard draft that I'm going to be showing you guys in a bit. Right, so with those in mind, I felt like it was okay for me to activate it in Game Week 8 and also take advantage of the price rises that will come my way to give me more flexibility as well. Right, so there we go. That's why I've activated the chip in Game Week 8, and let's take a look now at the Game Week 8 team selection. So after a lot of tinkering, this is how my Game Week 8 wildcard team currently looks. I'm 90% sure I'm going to go with this team, but the 10% I will show you guys at the end of the video, another variation of this draft. Right, so for this draft, we have a lot of money in the bank, 2.6 mil, and that is to account for the Liverpool players that we need to bring in future. Right, so we've gone for Pope in goal, and Trippier, Soufal, and Cancelo in defense. Right, so the reason why we've gone for double Newcastle defense is obviously because they're good fixtures. Right, Soufal also is more nailed than Emerson. Right, that's why I've gone for Soufal, and then Cancelo in the backline I think is pretty necessary as well. Now, something I should mention at this point in time as well is the reason why we should go for slightly more nailed players is because we know that Arsenal and Man City blank in Game Week 12. Right, so because of that, we are probably going to have to use a lot of our bench players to bring them in while we bench the Man City assets during that game week, because we're still going to want them for the long term. Right, so that's why a lot of my players down here are pretty much nailed starters in all of their teams. Right, so then going into the midfield now, we have Bailey, Martinelli, Andreas, and De Bruyne. Now, obviously, in an ideal situation, I wouldn't want to start Bailey and Andreas, but based on this game week, their fixtures are alright. Right, Andreas has Nottingham Forest, so I actually do think he could get some returns there. And Bailey, he has been playing well for Aston Villa. I know he hasn't started the season really well, but recently, his last game, he did score against City, and he has looked like the sharpest attacking asset from Villa at this point. Right, so that's why I'm going to go with Bailey, and he's also cheap. Right, it gives me a lot of budget to put money into other areas of the team. So we have Martinelli and De Bruyne as the other two starting 11 players. Now, I think for Martinelli, he is still one of the best value players at that price bracket. Right, 6.4 mil. He's rising to 6.5 soon. So I think even though the fixtures coming up for Arsenal may be a bit tough, I do have plans to take Martinelli out for Zaha. So based on this game week alone, I will have Martinelli, and moving forward, he could be out of the team. And then we have De Bruyne as well. I think De Bruyne is pretty much a really good placeholder for Salah. Right, there's talk about Son as well, but I think I much prefer De Bruyne. Right, so up front we have Isak, Haaland, and Mitrovic. I think this front three is pretty much one of the best front three at this point in time. Right, later on I will show you guys a variation of this that I'm very tempted by as well. But based on this front three, I do think that there are a lot of returns in store for these players this game week as well as the coming game weeks based on their fixtures. Right, so on the bench we have Ward, Maddison, James, and Guehi. It's a pretty stacked bench. Right, and the reason why I've gone for these players on the bench is because in the coming game weeks, even though they blanked this game week, the coming game weeks, they have very good fixtures, right? Madison plays Nottingham Forest in game week 9, and there onwards, Leicester's fixtures are really good, right? James as well, pretty much a very important player in my team, and then Guehi for his good fixtures, where Crystal Palace do have a good run from game week 10 onwards, right? So Ward is going to be the backup keeper, of course. I think it still looks like he is first choice ahead of Iverson, so that's why he's in my team, and he could potentially start some games because of Leicester's good run, right? We'll see how they fare defensively. Right, so for now, this is how my Game Week 8 team looks like. We'll take a look at captaincy right now and rank some of the captaincy options for this game week before we go into the alternative draft that I want to show you guys. So on to the Game Week 8 Captaincy Rubrics, and for those of you new to the channel, it's basically a rubric that I come up with every week to tell us statistically who is the best captain. Now, it's had a success rate of 6 out of 6 game weeks. I'm very tempted to go against the rubric this week and go with Kane, right? But we'll talk about that later on, right? And let's consider the options that we have here in the rubric first, right? There's Haaland, Kane, KDB, Son, Isak, Jesus, Mitrovic, and Tony. Now, in that order, those are the captaincy rankings, right? Haaland with a score of 64, and then Kane second with 53.5. Now, when we take a look at the statistics individually and also in terms of the team statistics, right, it's obvious that Haaland would come up top, also because of how Man City has been playing really well and also the numbers that he's been putting up. But Kane this week has Leicester at home, and that is also something we do have to consider, right? Wolves away from Manchester City is definitely the tougher game, right? And Wolves have not conceded a lot of goals. They haven't scored a lot, but they haven't conceded a lot of goals, especially at home. So that's also something we do need to consider. Right? I'm very tempted to have Kane in my team as well, right? But for the rest of the options, I don't think I would go anywhere near them, even though they do have good fixtures, right? Players like Isak, Mitrovic, even though they do have good fixtures, I think you probably won't have either Haaland or Kane in your team, and therefore I think it's pretty straightforward. If you have Haaland, you probably would captain him, right? If you have both Haaland and Kane, I think it's a little bit more of a debate, right? And I guess you could go with a little bit of gut feel there, right? But for now, based on the rubrics, Haaland is the best captain. So we'll take a look at, based on my current draft, right, how I'm going to line up with captaincy before we go into the alternative. So based on my current draft, I probably would slap the captain's armband on Haaland and the vice-captain's armband on De Bruyne. Vice-captaincy I don't think would matter that much because Haaland is probably going to start. Wolves away isn't an easy fixture. I think it's a tricky one, so I don't expect Pep to kind of bench Haaland for that game, especially since the international break is coming up. So I do expect that Haaland would still start this game, right? And so this is how the team is looking like, right, with captaincy and all my players in line. But let's take a look now at a variation that I'm very tempted by. So this is the alternative draft, and I've basically taken De Bruyne and Isak out for Bowen and Kane. Now the good thing about this draft is it allows me to captain Kane in Game Week 8 now, where he plays Leicester. It's a really good fixture, and I do think that Kane is most probably going to return in that one. Right? And on top of that, I get Bowen, who is someone that even though he didn't return in the first 6 game weeks, we saw in Europe he has been improving as well. He is on penalties potentially. In the next 4 game weeks, his fixtures are really good. Thereafter, I probably will swap him out for Salah. Right? So based on that, I actually do think that Bowen is a good asset for me to have as well. So I'm really kind of balancing these two drafts. Let me know what you guys think about them, right? Which draft would you actually prefer, right? If I'm gonna go with this draft, I most probably would captain Kane. So it could boil down to a decision of whether I want to captain Kane or Haaland this game week, and thereafter take the team forward at the next coming game weeks. So let me know what you guys think, right? Which draft would you go for? But for now, these are the 2 drafts that I'm tinkering with. Hopefully I could come to a decision by the Game Week 8 deadline stream. I probably will have to make a decision by then, right? Let's see if it comes down to the wire. But for now, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow in the deadline stream very soon.